Are you happy now? You all but demanded that I get this. So now what? What am I supposed to do with it? Just like hold it? Wiggle it around? Maybe just turn it on and play some games? Huh? What about this game? Oh, that's actually pretty fun. And maybe do some of this? Or what about this? Die, you motherfucker! Well, yeah, this is pretty fun. Fine, you win. I gotta get away from this computer. These days the internet is just nothing but Steam Decks. I'm gonna go for a walk. Oh, hi TechDweeb. Hey Betsy, what's going on? Not much, just playing some Steam Deck. Are you gonna get a Steam Deck? No, thanks. Okay, bye TechDweeb, bye-bye. Yo, TechDweeb, how's it hanging? Good, Cranboot, good. What are you up to? I'm just skateboarding. Oh, that sounds like fun. Yeah, man. Hey, have you heard of the Steam Deck? Yeah, I've heard of the Steam Deck, and I don't need a Steam Deck. Okay, no problem. Catch you later, TechDweeb. Bye-bye. Oh, crap. TechDweeb, my good friend. Hi, big Steamy Deck boy. Before you ask, no, I don't have a Steam Deck. I'm perfectly happy without a Steam Deck. But TechDweeb, you don't understand. You can't escape the Steam Deck. I can't? No, you can't. Not until you're one of us. No. One of us. One of us. One of us. One of us. Oh, thank God. It was only a dream. Meow. Hello. Hi. How you doing? I'm TechDweeb. Welcome. You all told me to buy this. I said, no, I don't need a Steam Deck. But that's not enough for you, apparently. And now I have one. So you want to know what I think? Do you? Well, I love it. I mean, come on. It's a Steam Deck. It's a fun toy. It's fun to play with. But I'm still going to be skeptical here. Is this thing actually worth the hype? Is it really a good deal for what you get? Is it worth getting one if you already have a gaming PC? Can I cuddle with it in my bed at night? Oh God, that's terrible. It's so hard and unloving. No, don't try that. But it might be good for the rest of that stuff. And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you've been living under a rock, like I have, apparently, the Steam Deck is a portable handheld gaming PC. When I showed this to my mom when I first got it, she asked what it was, and I told her, and she said, so it's like a Game Boy for computer games? I like that description, actually. The Steam Deck. It's a Game Boy for computer games. The Steam Deck aims to put the power of a gaming PC in the palms of your hands. It's not the first device to attempt this, but I think it's fair to say that the Steam Deck did it best. It really and truly brought PC gaming to the masses. And whatever else you could say about the deck, whatever gripes you could have about it, you have to admit that it's changing the landscape of not just handheld gaming, but PC gaming itself. But first, allow me to introduce you to the Steam Deck properly. What's that? You've already met? Oh, cool. So you already know about the 7-inch 800p IPS LCD display, the dual trackpads that can be used as joysticks or mouse control, the dual joysticks with capacitive touch, built-in gyroscopic control for precise aiming, the rest of the standard controls with a D-pad, 4 face buttons, bumpers, and triggers with haptic feedback, as well as the 4 additional back paddle buttons, all fully customizable, of course. Headphone jack, USB-C with DisplayPort 1.4, and microSD card slot for adding cheap expansion. Yeah, you already knew about that stuff, but did you know about the guts of this thing? The custom AMD APU with a Zen 2 processor with 4 cores and 8 threads, and integrated RDNA 2 GPU with 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, and this model that I have came with 512 gigabytes of high-speed NVMe SSD storage. Oh, you knew about that too. Okay, well, I guess we could move on then. When I first held the Steam Deck in my hands, I was kind of confused. I've seen pictures of people using this thing all over the place. On the subway, at work, at school, at your mom's job, at the park, but I wouldn't be whipping this thing out in any of those places. There's other things I would rather whip out, if you know what I mean. I don't think it's controversial to say, but this thing is barely a handheld. It's big. And it's heavy. It's like 1.5 pounds. I can't hold this thing for any extended period of time, not without supporting it in my lap or on a table. It is comfortable when you do have some support though. The screen is good, not amazing, but it's good. It feels big and crisp, especially considering that it's just an LCD display. It's big enough that most of the time you can read the text on inventory screens and stuff, but there's a problem here because this screen is only 800p, and it's a 16:10 ratio, so for 16:9 games, they display even smaller at 720p. And when you really need to look close at the game to read or see very small things, it's pretty obvious that it's not that crisp. And from an aesthetic standpoint, I know this is gonna anger some people, and I'm sorry for your feelings, but I have to say it because I feel it deeply. The Steam Deck is ugly. I've never liked the look of the deck. It reminds me of the original Game Gear. Just a big bulky black rectangle. Compared to lots of other modern handheld gaming devices, it's pretty soulless. But all these gripes aside, once I got using this thing, I felt right at home. There are lots of creature comforts here that are designed to make the whole experience really streamlined. The UI is basically just a modified big picture mode of the Steam desktop app. It's really easy to navigate my library, install games, manage my games, and of course they make it super easy to buy games. Isn't that convenient? There's a few things that I'd change if it were up to me, like it being less button presses to get to the installed games of your library, easier access to information about your games without having to open up the store page. And it's superficial, but I miss the horizontal Steam tiles. It's pretty messy how inconsistent the game box art thumbnails are. These are small gripes though, in the big picture. Pun intended. I knew it would be easy to get playing with this thing, but I was actually surprised at how easy it was. It seemed like most games just worked great at their default settings and configuration without having to muck about. And of course, you have your cloud saves. But just like on PC, you can pick up where you left off in your favorite games. For the most part, there are some exceptions. For example, with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, apparently the Linux version uses a different save file from the Windows version, so I couldn't use my save game. There were a few games like this, but the vast majority did work problem-free. I also got myself a cheap dock off Amazon. This dock makes it so that I can just throw down the deck on the dock, and then suddenly it's not a handheld anymore, but a game console. I dusted off the old Steam controller, and of course that was a seamless experience, getting that all connected. And it's so nice to have a controller that has the same controls as the deck to control the deck from my chair, or my couch, or my bathtub. The main areas where you can customize the experience are the Steam menu, which brings up the general options for the deck and the game you're playing, and there's a quick access button that brings up your knobs and dials. So you can change the brightness, battery stuff, the TDP, lock a certain frame rate, and it's all very well done. As a PC gamer, I'm used to having to navigate to different areas to do all the various things that I want to do, but even I have to admit that it's a bit segmented feeling on the deck. There are so many different areas where you could customize the experience, and there is overlap at sometimes, but not others. I mean, if you have a game open, you can press the Steam menu to bring up the options for the game, where you can change the controls, but there's also the in-game control settings. And there's in-game graphical settings, like enabling FSR, for instance. But then there's also the quick access bar, where you can enable FSR. And then there's out-of-game options that you can set only before the game even starts. I mean, I get that this is just the nature of PC gaming, and they've done a good job of giving you all the tools that you need to do what you need to do. It's just that now that I have the deck, I see the potential, and I imagine a future where all this stuff is in one place, and it's all much more streamlined and convenient. It's early days though, I guess. Maybe we'll get there someday. The Steam Deck runs a customized version of SteamOS 3.0 that's based on Arch Linux, with the desktop mode being powered by KDE Plasma 5, whatever that means. But you can easily switch back and forth between the SteamOS frontend and the desktop mode. And in desktop mode, it's a pretty familiar experience. You can install Linux apps, browse the web, watch Netflix, or whatever other questionable content that people choose to watch. You can install photo editing software, video editing software. There's a good chance that you could literally just use this as a computer, and you'd be able to do whatever you want. You can install Windows, but I haven't done that yet. I hear it's a bit messy. Apparently, you don't have access to TDP control without using some third-party apps, and there are some battery issues. And of course, while you gain compatibility with Windows-only games like Fortnite or whatever, you lose the optimizations of SteamOS. From what I've seen, the performance difference isn't much different, with a few exceptions. So unless you have a game that needs Windows, like Fortnite or Xbox Game Pass or Bedrock Minecraft, if you don't need any of that stuff, then it's probably better just to stick to SteamOS. One of the reasons that people choose to buy a console over a PC is the walled garden approach to the system and the software. PlayStation game developers know exactly how their games will run on every single PlayStation. On the flip side, PCs are all over the place. Developers have no idea what hardware their games are going to be run on, so they need to include lots of graphical options so that people with various PC hardware configs can make sure that it runs well and looks good on their system. But then along comes the Steam Deck. It's a PC, it runs PC games, and you get all the benefits and flexibility of PC gaming, but it's also like a console because Valve have built the OS from the ground up specifically for the Steam Deck, and every single Steam Deck plays games exactly the same. So developers know how their game will run on one of, if not the most popular gaming PCs in the world. And devs are taking notice, specifically putting in settings and optimizations to make sure that their games run well on the Steam Deck. Not every game does this, but maybe in the future, if this Steam Deck experiment pays off and more people are gaming on Steam Decks, then we'll see this become a more universal thing. And I'm totally here for it. Now, we gotta talk about gaming, obviously. Something you learn real quick when you start actually using a Steam Deck is that it's pretty good at handling graphically intensive games. When you game at the max settings and TDP, you'll blow through that battery in no time, and the fan will be screaming the whole time. If you can lower the settings to the point where it's still enjoyable for you but puts less stress on the system, that battery will last longer and the system will be cooler and quieter. For AAA games, I find that I actually prefer to keep the settings very low, making liberal use of lower resolutions and FSR upscaling. For example, I like playing The Witcher 3 at a 7-watt TDP locked at 30 FPS at the lowest possible settings with ultra performance FSR. The graphics are degraded, but you have to look pretty darn close at this small screen to even notice that it's not running at native. And the game plays great. It feels great. I could totally play it and enjoy it, and it's a great experience. A gaming like this will get me about 3 hours of playtime, which is much more than the hour and a half I'd get if I cranked up the settings. And the deck is perfect for playing lower spec games and indie games. I mean, all handheld gaming PCs are good at those, I guess. If you're like me, you've got a dauntingly huge Steam backlog waiting for you to tackle. I've heard from many people, and I totally agree, that their Steam library has been waiting for the moment that they got a deck. And once they actually had a device that lent itself to playing these games, they dove right in. And of course, it does emulation, but I'm not going to show you that in this video because I only just started playing around with it, and I'm definitely going to do another dedicated video on that topic. I love the deck. I love PC gaming. I love handheld gaming. So why wouldn't I love the deck? I have lots of other options for handheld gaming though, and a gaming PC. I thought it wouldn't make sense for me to get a Steam Deck, but I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. If I did mind, then I'd be constantly stressed out because I'm wrong like all the freaking time. Like 10 times a day at least. And you know what? I was wrong about the Steam Deck. I was wrong when I assumed that it was pointless for me to have. Just like every handheld that I have, each one is really good at something. The Miu Mini is my little Game Boy, where I play my old Game Boy and Nintendo games. The RP3 Plus is my PSP, where I play PSP games. My GameSir controller turns my phone into an amazing in-home game streaming device, and also native Android games. My iNeo Air is great for older games, and it's an indie-crushing machine. But the Steam Deck doesn't replace any of those things. The Steam Deck is its own thing. It's good at what other devices aren't good at. It can handle AAA PC games better than my Air, so now I have a portable PC that can actually handle those. And then there are lots of games that I prefer on the bigger screen of the deck, like strategy games or text-heavy games. And I love the party trick of gaming on the go and then docking it and gaming on my couch. The Steam Deck is the first of its kind. It's the first handheld gaming PC that is getting broad adoption. The first handheld gaming PC made by Valve, who make the Steam platform itself, and they're fully integrated together. In the Steam Deck, I see the future of PC gaming. We're not there yet. It has its flaws. It's big, it's heavy, it's barely portable, it's ugly, it has battery issues, heat and fan issues, compatibility issues, but what it brings to the table is worth more than the small gripes. I've loved my time with a deck, and I'm looking forward to learning more about it, finding some cool stuff to do with it, and sharing that stuff with you guys. And that brings us to the end. So, are you happy now? TechDweeb finally has a Steam Deck. What sort of videos do you want me to make about it? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, click the thumbs up button if you like the video, or don't if you didn't. Thank you so much to my generous supporters on Patreon who support the channel and help me buy stuff to make videos about. If you are a cool person and want to become a patron, there's a link in the description below. That's it for me. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.